I didn't. All right, so back this part up.
Lay it on me. Did I throw a lot of information out there? I think I did. Yeah, I got exercise equipment to pick up.
We're losing weight, we're losing pounds, and we're gaining episodes.
Tell us about your fitness.
Hello. Welcome to another episode of Finding My Fit at 40. Don't mind my voice today.
That was a husky hello.
Gigs. I know.
Very sexy.
Husky.
Very sexy.
I was singing. So I've been singing a lot lately. I had a double the other day, which I haven't had doubles in a couple weeks because it's a slow period now. But I had a double. And last night I had a long gig, a 4-hour gig.
Oh, wow.
And somebody requested Blue October. Do you guys know the band Blue October?
No.
They did that song, Hate Me. I would sing it for you, but I can't because I sang it last night.
Yeah, I can imagine that requires a lot of throat going on.
So much. And I was like, yeah, I'm feeling great. I did that song, and I was like, not feeling as great now. not feeling
and
quite
good night.
as great.
And good night, that's it for me.
And I still had about 45 minutes to go, so I finished the night, yeah.
I really can hear it in your voice a little bit.
Yeah, it's pretty bad today. Hopefully it'll be better by tomorrow, but
It won't.
I also have a gig today, too, so
Do
we'll see
you?
how that goes. Yeah.
Only raspy voice songs.
Yeah, maybe.
Just switch your whole shit up.
Just
You're
Pearl
just a
Jam all
raspy
day.
voice
Nothing
kind of
but
guy.
Pearl Jam.
No.
Just nothing but
Yeah.
Welcome to another episode of Finding My Fit at 40. The whole crew is here today. We have a really good episode
It's going to be a
today.
great episode.
I'm
I'm
pretty
excited.
excited about this. So we decided...
Preface.
Yeah, we decided we're going to watch a movie. You may have heard of it. You may have watched it already. It's called The Game Changer. And essentially, overview is the movie is about diets. It's about
a diet.
So hold on. I'm getting there. It's about diets. It's about a vegan diet versus having meat in your diet.
Right.
So it is the difference between eating plant-based or eating with meat.
Omnivore, essentially, where you could
Yeah,
meat
yeah.
and plants.
Having any kind of meat. That's what I don't know. I
No
thought-
animal.
yeah.
No animal
So
proteins.
Mike is going to debunk this for us today. So if you haven't seen it, it's okay to pause the episode and go watch it.
Yeah.
And then come back because it might be more enjoyable after you've seen it.
Yes, absolutely.
This episode will not disappear once it's been posted.
This message will
So
self-destruct.
before I hand you the floor, Mike, I just wanted Christy and I to give our kind of overview.
Yes.
Don't dive into anything,
won't.
just kind of an overview of how you felt. So
Yeah, I'd actually seen this before, but I
Okay.
have like the memory of a goldfish, so I'm glad that I rewatched it. It's not. I'm not going to say that it's not well done.
Yes, that was my take, too.
It is well done, and I can see how it would be very convincing for people who don't have any kind of other knowledge about it.
Hell, even if you have some knowledge.
I mean, yeah, it's very convincing. And I don't know if everything that they're spitting is like completely false or not. I wasn't the one doing the research, but I definitely have my my questions.
Yeah, same.
You know,
I'm
there are
kinda
some
excited.
things I didn't really like that they would just like kind of go through things so quickly where I was like, okay, well, am I supposed to just take your
We'll
word
definitely
for
get into
it?
the reasoning behind that as well. But I like that you guys were kind of watching it and questioning.
Yeah.
You know what
so
I mean?
I was like, okay, we're going to debunk this. So like, what?
So obviously something in here is debunkable.
Yeah.
So that was kind of my take. So I already knew kind of your view on it. Obviously, I also come from your tree, Mike, of knowledge through this. And so I went in skeptical just because of that.
Yeah.
It is super well done.
It is really well done.
Watching it still, I'm very interested to hear what your debunks are of it.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, this sound like I have some. There's certain things on there that I don't think you'll be able to debunk me from.
Yeah.
Honestly, because after I thought about it and with what they said, I was like, that 100% makes sense.
Yeah.
Certain things.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll get there when we get there. But there are other things that I was like, well, I mean, like I found myself doing that.
Well, I mean, some things I was like, that does kind of make sense. Like I feel like
100%.
And honestly, them having Arnold in it was like, man.
Yo, but
to me, that's
he's an executive producer of it. Him and Jackie Chan.
Yeah, Jackie
like
Chan's
that.
in it, but Jackie Chan's been a vegan for a long time. But
I didn't even know that.
having Arnold in it, flopping over to just praise veganism this late in life when he built an empire off of
meat. Yeah, it's
animal
interesting.
proteins.
yeah, but I mean,
No, penultimate physique. The man's lived into his 70s, has been active, And just now, he's going to praise all of these things and supposed health benefits from veganism. Just now,
Well, I mean,
makes
but
me
it also
skeptical right now.
no, see, that doesn't make me skeptical actually at all.
To
Because
go from
you're
one extreme all the way to
but
the
you're
other.
allowed to change your mind. In
Change
life.
your mind, yes.
Yeah, and you're allowed to change your
It's
life.
almost interesting that he's changed his mind in his life this late in the stage because you're like, man, maybe this guy really did figure some shit out.
Yes,
he's
that's
been
exactly
doing,
what I
an
kind of
omnivore
feel-
diet
yeah.
for years, and all of a sudden he's switched over. That makes you think that there has to be some truth to that. Otherwise, why would he have switched over?
Yeah,
Which
if he
was the beauty
there
of having
already.
him involved.
Exactly,
But,
that's what I'm saying.
But for
Having
me,
him in there.
it raises red flags.
See, that didn't do that. That part of it, I agree. That was really impactful. There were some other things that were pretty impactful that really didn't have to do.
There are also a lot of things where I was like, this is horseshit. So
Yeah,
Which I can't wait. When we go through kind of point by point, now that I'm formulating how I kind of want to do this, and you guys can tell me how you resonate with that.
Yeah.
I'll bring up my points as we go, and then I want to hear your take from that
for sure.
particular section.
So yeah, just the overview. My overall synopsis of the thing is it was fantastically done. It was well directed.
Yeah.
It was put together fantastic. I feel like the
James
points
Cameron
they
did
made
it,
were
so
awesome.
obviously it's going to
Oh,
be
he
well
did.
directed. Yeah.
Yo,
Oh.
there were
there were some big ass names in
there
that.
was so many big names. Even I know you guys don't resonate with the football players, but I remember that era of football
Yeah.
too. I remember all those players.
The Miami
And-
Dolphins they had in there.
He doesn't
Oh,
mean those
yeah.
that era, but yeah.
Yeah, there was 3 Dolphins.
Yeah.
I remember those players playing. Because it's a little older now. When
It is
did it
kind
come
of
out?
old.
I don't think it was that old. Was it just a handful of years?
Yeah, a
It wasn't
handful of
that
years, but
long ago.
none of those guys that they talked about, the football players, I don't think any of them still play.
Football's
So,
such a short-lived life.
It is, but that's also like
Unless you're
it's
Tom Brady.
it
That's
wasn't
true.
super recently.
Yeah. Or
Well,
like
he
a
was even
kicker.
when they started flashing all the pictures of the athletes,
Yeah.
the top tier athletes. Yeah. Anyway, well, that's a whole nother topic of stuff that I was like, all right, there's what's going on here.
Uh-huh.
So I'm going to hand the floor to you, and then I have so many questions, Michael. All right.
I also have questions. Okay.
All right, and
Yes.
for the record, James Cameron owns a pea protein supplement company, so
Yeah, but just because
Write
you
that down.
own something, like, yes, I know that a lot of people use that, especially on social media, being like, oh, obviously. Well,
no,
there's
hold
a
on.
reason he bought it, because maybe he
Correct.
believes in it.
correct. No, hold on. I'm not discounting something. This is, and we'll touch on this here in a little bit too. When it comes to studies and being like, well, this study was funded by the same industry, so it's no good. Well, hold on.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter who it was funded by. It still has to go through peer review, and then it goes through the process before it can then be cited and put up as a legitimate science paper.
However, there has been numerous occasions throughout time that all those steps and all that have been tweaked just a little bit because of where the money's coming from.
Sure. But
So
when
that's why it's like, is this
while
one of those?
while those kinds of studies are sprinkled in, and this is why I depend more on meta-analyses and random controlled trials, where you have a mix-up of hundreds, if not thousands, of studies that can now correlate that data. So this is why you can't just offhand disregard a source because of who funded it.
Yes, I agree with that.
And that's what ends up happening a lot. So, I'm not just saying, well, James Cameron owns a pea protein company, so this is all garbage now, and he's
No,
just in it for the
yeah.
money. The reason I can say that is because what I know of this entire process and the statements that are made and particular quote-unquote studies that may or may not even been directly in line with the point at that point, and they're still pushing this agenda. That's the only reason I'm like pointing that out and have like a negative tone towards it. Every of these so-called field professionals and people in the industry that this is leaning on has skin in the game when it comes to either selling a book or selling vegan lifestyle or selling supplements. Every one of them. Nobody else outside of that who's going to push in the opposite direction. And this is the difference between a documentary and a film. A documentary is going to present opinions from both
Yeah,
sides.
they sure didn't do that.
And then it's going to present the research, and it allows you to form your own
Yeah,
opinion.
they didn't have anybody who felt the opposite
No,
way
this is
going
not
on.
a documentary. This is a film on veganism.
So I hear that, but my statement based off of this film and stuff too is that is essentially what marketing and everybody does. Like that's
correct.
Like that was one of the points. I'm gonna jump ahead a little bit here. That was one of the points I really agreed with the film is like, wow, there really is a marketing push towards meat eating, but I've separated that from the nutrients part of it, more of the business side of it.
Okay.
And that again, this is what I was going to say. This is the one piece I don't think you're going to turn me on is when they broke down all of the what it takes to create meat, like how all the farms,
just the
all
industry,
that, the industry,
processes,
all of that stuff, and how much land is used for it, and all that stuff. I was like, I might be out on a lot of that stuff, and it totally makes sense.
We'll see.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's fine. But I'm saying that was one of the things for me that I was like, oh, that makes sense. And this you can't debunk is the fact that they obviously eat more proteins than what, like, I would be able to stay full on what a cow eats easier than what it.
I know, but I think that's one of the things that I thought was
people.
annoying. It was like they kept calling cows and poultry and whatever the middlemen of protein.
Yeah.
And then they would show you what they were eating. They're eating corn, wheat, right? They're none of those things have protein. Grass, it was like
No, grass has some protein
well,
too.
we're not
So
eating
does wheat.
grass. We can't eat grass.
I know.
And like I can't eat corn and get protein. You know what I mean? Like
We can't, and you're absolutely right.
So it's like the way that they do that makes it seem like I could just skip the cow and eat the corn.
No,
It's like it doesn't work
we'll,
that way.
And we'll go into that too. You're 100%
You
right.
know?
Cows have, well, one, they have more than one stomach. Is it 2, 3, or 4? I can't remember.
like
They're
4.
ruminants. They have a lot of
bunch.
stomachs, and they have special bacteria in there that help them pull amino acids out of the plants that they take. We cannot do that from those plants.
Yeah.
We just can't. So it's a silly, and again, that's one of the last points that we end up getting into. But
Yeah,
it's a
I
silly
told him
statement to make
there's-
that cows have lean body mass and plenty of muscle, and they're living off of plants. We're not cows, you idiot.
Yeah.
So it's just
Wait, what? Wait, we're not?
All right, Michael, start us
All
off.
right, let's dig on
let's dive in.
All right. So one of the first ones that they kicked out was that gladiators were vegan.
Yeah.
So give me your thoughts on that.
I don't know if they can prove that off of what they were showing
That's
us.
Oh,
what I said. I was like,
Maybe they ate a lot of vegan-y items because maybe meat was hard to come by. But I think if anybody was getting the meat, it was probably the gladiators.
and that's what I was thinking about when they were talking about, oh, this is how our ancestors, blah, blah, blah. I was like, yeah, because meat was just harder to come by.
Yeah.
If they had the choice, if meat was at a grocery store and they could just pick it up, what were they going to choose?
Right.
Would they have chose meat or would they have chose vegetables? They had no choice but to choose vegetables.
And they proved
that was
this
part of it
off
that
of
was
their
bothering me.
bones.
Off of their bones, because you can extract
Can you find protein like that in
you can extract
bones?
nitrogen content of the bones at that point. So pulling out nitrogen content means that they had protein in their diets.
And so, okay, that's cool because they were talking about these gladiators.
Yeah.
What about everybody else from that civilization? Do their bones all tell the same tale? Because if they do, then that's just what everybody
What he
ate.
ate.
Well,
Yeah.
gosh, why do you think they didn't pull from the entire population?
Yeah,
They could probably find those population bones easier than gladiator bones.
Yeah.
That's what I was like. Because the other sentiment of it is also like, I get that if they're gladiators, they want to give them the best nutrients and stuff like that. But gladiators weren't they weren't the same like we are. They were like
Gladiators
slaves.
were slaves.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's what I mean.
Yep.
So like they weren't going to feed them the
Yeah,
best.
they're like, we
foods.
want you to fight to the death.
Yeah, we like.
Here's some food to keep you alive while you do that.
Yeah, essentially, you're expendable. Here
Yeah.
you go. So like,
Right. Now, they did, the owners of gladiators did make money off of them winning and
Yeah.
such, but still. All right. So, gladiators.
Yeah.
You're right that they did exhume bones and then basically looked at what they ate. And they claim that gladiators ate a primarily plant-based diet. But that could be said based off of, again, poverty. You're going to be eating rice, barley, simple things that you can
yeah.
come from in bulk because they were slaves and it was expensive to procure meat and feed them meat. So saying that gladiators were vegan.
I mean, imagine spending a bunch of money on some meat on some dude the night before he goes and gets killed, and you're like, well, that was a waste of meat.
yeah, that's what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
so it's just a weird thing to make the claim that gladiators are vegan, and I think it works because we have movies about gladiators. We've glorified gladiators.
Yeah.
And these penultimate athletes are performing in combat, and they're vegan, so that must be the way to go. Gladiators were actually kind of fat.
Yeah.
Okay, they ate a lot of simple carbs because that was easily, readily available, and having a layer of subcutaneous tissue would protect valuable blood vessels and insides from cuts and things
Yeah.
like that. So they were actually a little
It's their
bit more on the
primordial
fat
pouch,
side.
you know?
Yeah. And now when they did pull up bones of gladiators from different burial sites, which again, this isn't in the mockumentary, they found higher levels of sulfur, which leans more towards a seafood diet. So, being closer to the sea.
So
and
they
getting
ate what was
protein
readily
in your
available
diet.
to them.
Weird how that
Shocking.
works. In cultures that were like there's poverty, there's famine, there's a scarcity of food. Yeah, that's what they fucking ate. It doesn't prove you should be a vegan now because it's the best way to live. Our ancestors are not all the best target to go off of.
That's what I
in how
told
we should
Aaron when
live
we were
our
watching it. I was
lives.
like, do I want to do what our ancestors did? They lived to like 40.
That's what I keep. That's my argument with all that stuff. They're like, with every time I'm like, yeah, but they're like, oh, we didn't need this, we didn't have to do this, or oh, we didn't go to the doctor, or like anytime like an old head says stuff like that, or we didn't have this. I'm like, yes, but you also all died when you were 45 years old.
Yeah.
So like,
if that.
yeah,
Yeah.
Right.
yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so I mean, the gladiator one is kind of simple if you dig in just below the base layer at that point.
I feel like we're gonna have a lot of those
A lot
moments,
of that,
Chrissy,
yeah.
because there's so much information.
Well,
on
I was
this.
going to jump ahead, but I was like, well, let me let Michael keep going. Cause
Yeah.
it's hard for me to remember what order things happened in that movie.
That's why I have the point.
Yeah. So I was
So
like, I don't
it's
know where
fine.
that came in.
Yeah, there was so much. Yeah, but the gladiator thing was wild, and
It's
I
just-
agree.
it's
and
one
it
of
was
these
weird. It threw me off to start the movie because I was already like, when they did the bone thing, I was like, all right,
Yeah.
chill out. Like that.
Yeah, I'm like,
part.
how many gladiator bones did we look at? Which gladiators? From
Yeah, that made me
where?
skeptical.
I
Like,
mean,
more
if you
skeptical.
pull up any gladiator bones, you would assume that any gladiators within a certain location are probably being fed relatively the same things.
Yeah.
If you look at what we feed cattle at this point,
Yeah.
or it's consistency. There's sort of a paradigm already set up. They're likely getting similar things, and they were, unless again they were closer to like
Right.
the sea, where you're getting
Yeah.
a little bit more seafood protein as far as that goes.
because it's readily accessible.
Correct. Readily accessible, whatever's inexpensive, because gladiators were slaves. It was expensive to upkeep. All right, so next point that we have is protein as fuel. The film does a wonderful favor to us all by stating that protein is not utilized by fuel. And thank you for telling us something that we have known for the better part of a century.
Yeah, they did
Like,
talk about how carbs were good.
yeah, but
I thought that was
making
nice.
the dead set statement that protein is not used as fuel, we've known that
Yeah.
for a long damn time.
It's
So
not,
why
it's
are
not
we even
we're
talking
eating
about
protein.
that?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. The RDA for protein has been set way too low. So your 0.8 grams per kilogram is fairly damn low, and it's been low for a long time. That's leaning more towards, just survival, maybe overall health-ish. It's not leaning anywhere towards increasing health, maintaining lean body mass, being at all athletic, improving health markers. It's just too low for that. And so I had some numbers. See where we're at. So the average vegan is getting roughly 83 grams of protein a day. The average omnivore is
Where does
getting...
that number come from?
I've
Because
got...
that
yeah.
feels like you're just randomly picking a number out of thin air.
You can say that. That's easy to say, and that's great. But it's hard for me to cite a PubMed study right here over the air. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
So
but,
it-
but I'm saying, is that what it came out of?
A PubMed
PubMed study. All right. That's
yeah,
okay.
it's all come from studies. So here's the overall thing too. All of this information is from Lane Norton's response, where he wrote a 10,000-page paper
Oh my God.
debunking game changers. Now, Lane Norton is one of those people that he's established a lot of trust in me in
he's
the industry,
awesome.
and he's somebody that I know is going to be very transparent. And if you go look up Lane Norton game changers, pop those into Google, you'll find the entire 10,000-word thing. I've filtered it down to 4 pages where we get the meat and potatoes, and we can do this on a podcast.
Yeah.
If you go to his site,
Hear that meat and potatoes. Yeah.
if you go to his site, if you're really, really interested in the study, the citations, the studies that they linked in Game Changers to the studies that he's used to refute them, super easy links. You can click them. You can go read. You can dig deeper.
Cool.
So
Curious.
everything that I'm stating right now is fully cited, fully transparent. It's just going to be real hard for me to
Yeah, no, that's cool. I just, as you said that, I was like, where does that number randomly?
valid,
Yeah,
and that's a valid
yeah.
question. Anybody listening should be asking the same thing.
Yeah,
question.
100%.
Yeah, all this is transparent. If I happen to get something wrong, please, by all means, call me
Yeah.
out on it. But I was fairly careful with what I got from his site.
Okay, so vegans get 84 grams of protein a day?
83 is on average based off of a study where they pulled together a certain amount of vegans, just how the studies work. Now, how many people they use for that one, I don't know.
Yeah.
And then omnivores, eaters of meat and plants, get on average about 113 grams of protein
See,
a day,
that's
which is
interesting
still
'cause
low.
in the movie, they really didn't make it seem that way. Do you guys remember them like kind of showing the amount of protein and they're like filling up the bodies? Do you remember that?
Yeah, but you got to bear in mind everything they're showing in this movie was to twist the narrative.
No, absolutely. I'm just kind of wondering. The thing about it is the way they would do it, guys, is they like flash a study on the screen. They flash it so fast you can't even read the name of the study. You cannot read the name of the study. It's on there so fast. They'll flash like 5 of them back to back to back. And in the bottom corner, like basically translucent white, they list in really tiny font some studies.
That's very much a look, study. We know what we're talking about. We've researched it. Moving on.
Yeah, and so like that's what they're trying to convince you that they've researched it and it's all. And I was like, but that was so fast, man. Like what did that even say remotely? Like it was just so quick.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, that was annoying.
Yeah. So I mean, those are just the average population, average vegan, average omnivore numbers. Now we've had tons of studies on adequate protein and recommended ranges, and these days we're settling on about 1.6 grams per kilogram of body weight plus. So that 1.6 is kind of your minimum to maintain athleticism and a good amount of lean body mass.
So my statement with that is like, okay, I get what you're saying is the average or vegan or whatever gets 83 versus the one, what was it, 115, whatever.
Doesn't matter.
Like that.
Close enough, yeah.
But that's just like the average. So we're talking.
Well, you absolutely can get more protein as a vegan.
For sure.
Yeah, well, and I think that's
we'll touch on that too.
That
Absolutely.
was kind of the idea. Is what I found really interesting with all of it was this seemed to focus the movie seemed to focus way more on like the elite athletes. Like it was a lot of elite athletes doing all that thing. So they're going to focus more on making sure they get the right protein. They're going to eat the stuff that gets. So those numbers of like the overall average that like. I get why that makes sense for the overall thing, but we talk about all the time how normal people who are omnivores don't get enough protein in their lives.
Yeah,
which
even the 113 isn't, but we're saying right now, naturally, the omnivores are just getting roughly 40 grams more protein already.
Yeah, but
just based off of what they're doing. If it's still not
enough, like what does it matter?
Then both
kind of deal. You know what I mean?
I'll tell you what it matters, because this entire film was trying to prove how veganism is the penultimate diet for reducing disease and inflammation.
But if you eat it properly, I mean, there's incorrect ways of doing everything.
I agree. We're discussing. We are in line with how we feel about things outside this video, but this video is trying to prove one single point, and I'm trying to bring to the point not that eating meat is better than veganism, but that veganism is not better than than adding meat into your diet. That's what I'm trying to prove. So I'm not saying anti-veganism, anti-vegetarianism.
I agree with Mike. Yeah, I think that you can do all of the things. You can be vegan and hit all your protein and do all the things.
So when I bring,
I don't think that meat in itself is as bad as they want you to think.
And so when I put numbers out there like that, comparing the two, I'm not saying, see, look, omnivores are better. They're still under where they should be protein-wise. But naturally, without any change to your diet, health, lifestyle, without focusing heavily on health, naturally, on average, you're going to get a little more protein with an omnivore lifestyle than you are veganism, based off of the data. And you're right, they do go into finding these penultimate elite athletes, and I'll touch on that here in a little while too, because that's the flashy shit. And they are the exception to the rule.
Yeah, I mean, truly, they are. It's like if I made a documentary about penultimate elite athletes that eat an omnivore diet, I would have fucking people coming out of my ears.
Yeah.
Because most penultimate elite athletes eat meat.
100%.
You know? So
and this
it's
is
like,
also
yes, you're going to be able to find the people who are vegan who are also doing these things.
That's called bias confirmation. So if you set out to prove something, you're going to be able to find people that are going to fit that mold, and then you put those people to the front and showcase them. That does not prove the rule for everyone. That's you found the examples that fit what you're trying to push.
I get what you're saying, but so here so this is at the end of the movie. I know we're jumping ahead here. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
But where they flash all the athletes.
Yeah.
If all those athletes that they were flashing are actually vegans, that's the other part that I was like, are they all vegans? All these people? Are they like?
Let's just assume they are for the hell of it.
But so the people that just the two that stuck out to me that they flashed was Tom Brady and Lionel Messi.
Tom Brady's eating habits are fucking insane.
Oh, they're insane. I didn't know he was vegan. I didn't think he was vegan.
I didn't know he was vegan either. But
there you go. He may not be. I haven't checked
but let's say if they are,
we're going to assume for sake of argument.
For the sake of the movie, if they are, this is what. So these are like the elites of the elites, and this is where this was like intriguing for me. If I was an extreme elite athlete, I think I don't want to give my overall feel of like is meat isn't a bad thing, like, but it's like maybe there are some things that you can change by going to a vegan diet, but in these elite athletes who are looking for, like we said all the time, that extra 1%, that extra 2%. Somebody like a Tom Brady, who he was an elite athlete and then is the elitist of the elite. He is he's the GOAT.
He follows the 80-20 rule when it comes to his diet, meaning animal-based foods make up around 20% of his diet, and whole plant-based foods make up 80% of his diet.
So they just lied.
So yeah, then why was he even in that? So that was
because
and
he
messy,
does believe in predominantly eating vegan, but he doesn't completely eat vegan.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
the bulk of any,
which I think is how you should.
the bulk of any diet should be more
that
fruits
way.
and vegetables than anything, and then you get enough protein to do whatever your goal is shooting for. So that's one of those shitty things where
that was the messy too. He's the GOAT. Like he's
Right.
literally the greatest soccer player ever and the greatest football player ever.
I love how
was
you're
like,
pulling that up right
"Whoa."
now, Chris. You get after it.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, but what they did, like a lot of things in this entire film, is they pulled the bulk of the information. So they read, Tom Brady eats 80% vegan or
Messi
vegetarian.
isn't a
That means-
vegan, but the renowned football star has mostly cut out animal meat and dairy from his diet
So
to
they
stay
took
on
that,
top shape.
and they're like, he's basically vegan. He's mostly cut out all this other stuff. We can put that in there now. And that's the shitty fucking thing with how they presented a tremendous amount of this data, is it's this flash and pump. When you find, and I'll touch on a couple and we'll reiterate, but the athletes that they've used in here as examples, I didn't catch any of them that are the absolute top. So they'll put in like a number 6th ranked Olympic lifter in there. Well, okay, cool. But what about the 5 guys above him that were eating meat and are outperforming? And or bodybuilders where, sure, you can do this as a bodybuilder. You can be an elite athlete, but what about the 99% of other bodybuilders out there that are either outperforming or still performing just as high?
Yeah.
It's just a shitty thing to bring out there where you're not putting out all the data. You're just being like, well, see, high performing over here. And you'll see an example coming up shortly where they pit 2 athletes together, one vegan, one not, and this one wins, and then they're like, this other one lost because they ate meat. And it's not that simple.
Well, it's because what he said then. I think that's why they used it. So afterwards, Conor McGregor said,
yeah.
I was eating steaks every day, and I guess I
Yeah,
did.
Conor McGregor lost that fight because he was doing that stupid cocky shit that Conor McGregor does where he doesn't defend his fucking face. I watched the fight.
Yeah.
And then he just takes all the hit to the face, and then it's like, well, of course you fucking lost, Conor. You got to put your fucking hands up, my guy. This isn't
It
how
gets
that
you
works.
worse than that. Bear in mind that Conor also, he's a striker, very talented. I mean, he's still good on the ground, don't get me wrong, but he's also known to gas out.
Also, Nate Diaz is a good fucking fighter, man.
Yeah, Nate
like, what do you
100%.
want to tell
So
you?
He take a lot of punishment.
Conor's not
Yeah.
known for his conditioning. Nate brought up boxing just about anybody. His BJJ game is on point. He's got longer range, and Conor went up 2 weight classes to fight in this fight, which means Nate Diaz outweighed him by about 20 to 30 pounds on top of that. And Nate Diaz, who, fine, is a vegan. We haven't said you can't be a high-level athlete who is vegan, but he also runs triathlons. So his conditioning is on point. I don't think I've
he's a
ever
fucking
seen him
beast.
knocked out. The dude has an iron fucking jaw.
Yo,
More-
I've seen him
He
take some
bleeds
shots.
like a motherfucker,
Yeah, but
man.
yeah,
Holy
you look at him wrong and he bleeds. But but I've seen him eat punches that I was like, no human being should be able to take.
No,
the
so
punishment that
the
you're taking.
fight shouldn't have happened, really, but you can't just say in this one scenario that, well, Conor lost because he ate meat and Nate Diaz won because he's a vegan.
However, I don't agree with Conor McGregor's meat eating. He was just stacking steaks on steaks on steaks. And
Yeah.
it's like, hey, man,
I think that
maybe you can eat leaner meats or something.
Yeah, I think
Which,
that's also the
you
side
know,
of
is,
it.
is important too. But
Yeah.
also Conor came back and beat Nate Diaz. So, but we didn't touch on that.
Did the movie come out
I
before
don't know.
that happened?
Yeah, it might have.
I don't think it did.
I don't.
But-
I don't know.
Regardless, he
still
came
think
back
Nate's
and beat us.
being-
So does that now mean that veganism is no good because meat won in that scenario? In every other case in the movie, they will point out how this ranked 5, 6, 7, or 8, they're top elite athletes, and look how well they're doing. But they don't
it's
talk
not that
about how
long.
they got beat.
2018, the movie came out. 2018, which means it's all information probably from 2016 and 17.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
So that's where so it's as of the taping of this 7 years old.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So again, they use that example as a clear cut. Oh, vegan better, meat bad because of this win.
Yeah.
But when you have other top ranking athletes that are only placing 5, 6, 7, 8, they're like some of the best ever we're not even pointing out that they got beat. So does that mean that veganism isn't superior? Like, what are we trying to say here when it was clear cut?
Yeah, I think what this movie could have done a lot better is be like, hey guys, increasing your intake of whole foods, fruits, and vegetables is going to
absolutely.
be so much better for you in the long run, rather than just being like, meat's the demon.
Right. And even if they use this whole platform to be like, look, you can be a high-performing elite athlete and live a vegan lifestyle.
Yeah.
You can get enough protein as a vegan, and you can perform very, very well. But to make it so clear-cut as demonizing meat, and
Yeah,
this
it's
is better
weird.
when the science does not show that, is dishonest and it's irresponsible.
Not just meat, but like every animal product. What's up?
So you're backwards. Connor beat him first.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, didn't Nate beat him twice after? or
No,
something?
the second fight got canceled,
Oh, okay.
and then the last fight. Wait, no. Oh, they have this. No, you were right.
Okay.
So it's back. It was back. It's flipped on
Gotcha.
what I'm looking at. So yeah, Nate won the first one. They were both in 2016. In March 5th, 2016, Nate Diaz beat Conor McGregor. That was the first fight. They fought again later that year in August, and Conor McGregor beat Nate Diaz.
Right. Veganism was better for you in the first half of that year, and the last half, meat was better for you. Based off
Meat
of
is
this,
a winter
based
diet.
off of this mockumentary, that's how it works. So
Yeah,
it's just,
and it was the same year.
it's an absurd fucking point
it's
to make.
just, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we all do that when we're trying to make our points, right?
No,
I mean-
no, nope,
Never.
no. All right, moving on.
All right, next.
All right, increasing dietary protein depletes muscle glycogen.
Wait, say that again.
Increasing protein depletes muscle glycogen.
I
Like
don't-
actively depletes muscle glycogen.
I don't remember them talking about that.
Really?
Like,
We're
what
talking
was
about food
happening
again,
on the
and I'm getting
screen,
hungry.
Michael?
That's okay.
Can you hear my
There
stomach?
was a lot happening on this.
Yeah.
I couldn't.
So explain. Yeah,
All
explain
right,
to me
so
what that
then,
means.
then I'll take care of that.
Yeah.
Explain to me what that means.
They're saying bringing
I'm stupid.
in animal proteins, which again they're demonizing animal proteins. They're
Yes.
saying increasing animal proteins will deplete your muscle glycogen. Your glycogen is sugar stored in your muscle for energy.
Okay.
So if you're eating a moderate to higher carb diet and getting enough protein, et cetera, your glycogen stores are full. Let's just call them 100%.
Yeah, because you're eating a lot of glucose.
Well, carbs in general get broken down into glucose,
Yeah.
and they get put in. So I'm just saying even good, high-quality plant stuff
Yeah.
is fine. It's still going to get broken down to glucose, and it's still going to get stored as muscle glycogen. So they're saying taking in animal protein will deplete that muscle glycogen. And also understand that throughout this movie, they are equating carbs to plants. Carbs equal plants. Anytime they're talking about carbs,
I
carbs
said the
are
same
plants.
thing. I was
Yeah.
like,
Yep.
okay, why did they just say carbs though?
Right.
Yeah.
So by taking in protein, protein when you don't have any carbs in your system gets broken down into glucose, some of it,
Yeah.
through gluconeogenesis in the liver. Anytime you see genesis on the end of something, that's the body is creating it or fixing it or making something happen.
Okay.
So gluconeogenesis is creating glucose. And your protein can do that to aid glycogen stores, et cetera. And even on the ketogenic diet, they compared two high-protein diets. One was moderate carb, moderate fat, I believe. I think I wrote that down. Standby one.
I have to say, I have never seen you as impassioned talking about something on the
Yeah.
pod. As his eyes are big, he's like into it.
He
today.
has
Right.
notes.
Yeah.
y'all.
He does.
Like-
He's so
I'm so
on-
prepared. So it's moderate carb, moderate fat. So more of a typical diet. But both protein was equated, calories were equated, and after about 3 weeks on the keto diet, your glycogen stores dropped to about 57%. And so
in this keto, they're eating high protein and high fat and low carb.
high protein, high fat, low carb. Yeah.
Sure.
And so this is going to be the part of the study where the vegan people are like, see, more protein, you're dropping glycogen stores. Well, hold on. After about 6 weeks, your glycogen stores climb back up to about 69%. 69. So, and that's with the same diet, same animal protein coming in and levels going back up. When the fact is, if you are in a deficit, glycogen stores are going to drop regardless. Like that's just going to happen. And they say, I think the statement they made, they specifically said depletes glycogen. So we're talking about zero here. So just because it drops doesn't mean it's depleting. So they took a lot of liberties using the word depletes. You still have, muscle glycogen. Your body still has mechanisms for making sure that stays up.
I want to talk about the monkey teeth. Do you guys remember the teeth conversation that they had? I think it was towards the beginning when we were talking about fighting people.
Was
People
it?
that
For
fight.
some reason I thought it was
Fighting.
further on.
Was
but they're
it?
going to talk
I don't,
about.
that's why I wanted to mention it earlier. I really cannot remember what
You're
order
fine.
shit
They're going to
happened.
talk about
Yeah.
the jaw and how
They talked about how
They have sharp teeth.
how the structure of our teeth is not made for eating meat. But the argument there is that those are the teeth of animals that only eat meat.
Right.
You know, so I was like, okay, well, those animals only eat meat.
That's what that's the whole movie felt like. It was people who only eat meat versus people who only eat vegetables.
Right.
Yeah,
and I was
and
like,
I was
what
like, well,
about
what
us in
about
the
the
middle?
people
Felt
who
like
eat
it was
both?
politics.
Yeah.
That's what I felt like.
That's why I keep trying to use the word
right versus
omnivore
the left.
Yeah.
because that's kind of bringing
Yeah,
both sides.
I was
of
like,
the
well, what
mix.
if you do both? Like, what do you mean if you
I
do
was trying
both?
to think of like,
Because I think carnivore zealots are just as misguided as.
I
as
completely
vegan
agree with you.
zealots.
That's
Yeah.
crazy. Who's eating just meat?
There are people
That's
that
fucking
only
nuts.
eat
That
meat.
can't be good for you either.
I think I talked about this on one of the other podcasts. There's a guy, he's an announcer, Al Michaels, I talked about.
Mm-hmm.
He has stated numerous times he's never eaten a vegetable in his life.
Wild to me. Yeah, I was trying to think of an animal who's a good omnivore, and I was like, well, I don't know. You know, I feel like in the animal world, you're like mostly going one way or another.
I mean, kind of
there-
are.
Are there omnivores?
I was like, oh, chickens. They don't have teeth.
Well, I mean, think about how often like your dog will start eating grass along the route because they know that roughage is going to kind of help their
Yeah.
stomach out. To a
And-
certain
yeah, but they don't
extent.
get nutrients out of it, do they? It's just roughage
I
for them.
think so. I'm not a dogologist. I don't know
dog-
for sure.
Dogologist?
You're the dog expert here, Christine.
Yeah,
Come
I
on,
don't
show
know.
me.
You
I
can very
don't-
easily do a search for omnivores, and you're going to have like a list, a
good
couple
idea.
hundred
Let's do
long.
that
I
right
just
now.
don't know what they are right off
Yeah,
the top of my head.
omnivore
I was just
animals,
wondering,
let's
like,
check
what
out.
their teeth
I mean, probably. I
look
think
like.
monkeys are.
But
might
monkeys
be.
eat meat? I didn't know that. I think they don't eat meat.
I mean, do they eat smaller things?
Bears.
Oh, bears. There you go.
Bears.
Yeah, because
Bears are
bears eat
omnivores.
honey, like Winnie the Pooh.
And I bet bears don't got teeth like ours.
No, but they're omnivores.
So my stance on that is I don't give two shit about the anthropological data. I care
Yeah.
about what
What's
the
good for my
nutrients
body.
do to my
Yeah,
body.
yeah. Agreed. I was just
and the
curious.
fact that I can very easily eat meat. You can't come and tell me that I'm not meant to eat meat. I've got fucking canines, people.
Yeah.
I mean, but the argument there was there are like gorillas.
I do not have the
big
teeth.
giant canines, and
They don't
eat.
But the thing
any-
is, like, those are not meat. Those
what
aren't.
it-
Those
Are
are.
we saying
their
that they don't get protein either?
Those
or-
are teeth for survival, man. Those are teeth for other things. Yes, we don't have teeth like dogs or carnivores because we don't rip flesh off of the bone when it's raw off of an animal that we just killed.
Right.
And that's why you need those kinds of
But
teeth.
if it was cooked rare, I'll rip that shit right off the bone.
It's fucking nuts. All right, go on, Mikey. Sorry
All
to
right.
interrupt
No,
the
no,
teeth
you're quite all right.
situation.
So again, we've talked about how they were cherry picking athletes for the most part.
They were, and dude, they picked out some really cool athletes. They had, like some competitive bodybuilder guy. They had this fucking crazy dude who
Wait a minute.
ran like a bajillion million miles, and then he
Yo,
ran the whole
that dude.
Appalachian Trail. And I was like, dude, this guy's fucking nuts.
He made me not want to
I
run.
bet he
ever.
could have lived his life. He could have done it eating meat if he wanted to. It's hard to
absolutely
eat
could.
meat while you're running, though. I feel like. Okay.
I would imagine. But you have Usain Bolt claimed that he ate 100 chicken nuggets daily while he was in the Olympics.
Fuck yeah, go
We're going to say
off.
he's not a top competitor right
That
there.
motherfucker's fast.
Good God, he's fast.
Yeah, but
Now,
how much faster could he have been, Michael, had he only
God,
eaten
right?
plants?
I don't think he needed to be any faster.
I don't think he should be any
He's
faster.
number one.
No one else can compete at that point.
They used an Olympic weightlifter that came in 8th place, which absolutely is impressive as hell.
Yeah.
But what about all the people that beat him?
Yeah.
I'm not shitting on his accomplishment, but
Yeah.
what about all the people that beat him?
How about the mutton chops guy who lifts like a fucking lot of weight?
How are we proving the narrative when you just cherry pick somebody below? When again, it was clear cut when it came to Conor McGregor and Nate Diaz.
Yeah.
Super clear cut.
You know who I was impressed by? I think his name was Lou, the old man. That black dude, the coach. He was coaching.
Yeah.
Who was like 71
God, he
years
was
old
like, he
and
was
just ripped.
fucking stacked. He looked good. I was like, go off, old dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was
like,
cool.
Yeah.
I was like, oh boy.
Yeah. Now, again, bear in mind, if you're 70 years old and jacked as fuck, and you haven't disclosed that you're on any kind of hormone
Oh yeah, I
therapy,
know. I was like, I feel like this guy's taking something.
Yeah, it's not the vegan that's doing it. Like somebody who's performing that well likely knows how to vegan-like
Yeah.
get all the protein that they need in.
Yeah.
And they're likely on hormone therapy, which I'm not shitting on.
I'm not shitting on that
70
either.
fucking years old, get after it.
Dude,
but
he
don't
looked
don't
fucking
claim that
good.
it's veganism that's going to keep you 70 and shredded and built like a brick shit house. Like it's
Yeah.
just, that's not how it works.
It wasn't the
and again,
vegetables.
it's misleading
Yeah.
and it's irresponsible.
It is misleading. I agree.
That's how I feel about it. Now, they had this really weird one where they said that a peanut butter sandwich has as much protein as 3 eggs or a 3-ounce steak.
I saw that.
Okay, kinda. Now, there's a couple confounders here. A typical serving of peanut butter is 32 grams in weight.
Yeah.
Okay? And I have found, because I've measured this out of my own PB&Js, is that like one decent little scooping of the knife that fits one bread for me is my entire two tablespoons, 32 grams. No. So I use 2 full servings on a PB&J.
Yep.
For me.
Yep.
And that's 14 grams of protein. Figure about 4 grams of protein from the bread itself. And you're sitting at...
A lot of fat.
A lot of fat.
calories.
So I'll get there in a second. So you're looking at 18 grams of protein.
Okay.
Right? So 3 eggs, if you're getting smaller eggs, you're getting a minimum of 18 grams of protein from 3 eggs. I generally buy the large eggs, so I'm getting 7 or 8 grams per egg.
Maybe they were talking about quail eggs.
It's possible.
Yeah.
Possible. That's the only way they're going to make this work. And even 3 ounces of steak, on average, would be 20 to 21 grams of protein. And the peanut butter sandwich is going to invariably be twice the fucking calories right there.
Yeah.
Now, calories, not bad. Fat, not bad. If you're maintaining for overall calories. So it's just a stupid comparison
weird
to put
comparison.
a peanut butter sandwich to eggs and steak. It's just one of those bait and switch type tactics.
Also, why are we talking about peanut butter? Is it vegan?
It's from peanuts.
Okay.
So another thing there, too, is we've talked about this before, that the body does not process plant protein as efficiently. So you have to get more plant protein
can we talk
to do the
about
same
the guy who said that all plants have... So isn't the whole amino acid argument that plants don't have all of the amino acids?
They don't have as complete amino acids. And most importantly, they have less leucine than you're going to be able to get from animal protein.
And that one guy said that all plants have all the amino acids. Isn't that what he said?
Yes, if you put all the plants in one room,
And I was
they
like,
will have all the amino acids.
Eating? So I was wondering if that's what he meant. I was like, does he mean like if I eat all of the plants?
Yeah. You can get all of the amino acids you need from plants. You just have to eat more of them.
Okay, so
Just simple as that.
guy.
Which is why...
So that's what he was saying.
Yeah,
so
I guess so.
So that argument for not eating plants is a bad argument, essentially, is what he was saying.
Yeah, okay.
Got you. All right, that makes sense.
Yeah, so it's just a stupid point to make, too, because I would never say that you can't get it from being vegan.
Yeah,
but in order to be
It's a good argument
sure.
against why it makes it a little bit harder, I guess.
Yeah.
But
It does make it harder because you have to get a more variety of those veggies and cook it a little bit differently, and you have to plan out more specifically to get all the same things. Now, if it was legitimately healthier for you and red meat and eating meat in general was just not good for you and you wanted to treat it like a dessert where you had it every once in a while just because you enjoy it, cool. I hop on board that.
Yeah.
But the studies don't support it. So if eating meat and being an omnivore is just as healthy as being a vegan, why would I ever take the extra steps necessary, the higher expenses, the more planning in order to be a vegan? Like to me, it just it doesn't make sense.
To me, it's like, okay, I don't think... I mean, like maybe red meat you want to cut out for whatever reason, or like maybe burgers because they're high in fat or something like that. Yep. But like, if you're just going to go out and buy vegan chicken wings or vegan chicken tenders, like just eat chicken tenders at that point, you know?
Right. My statement, my question then is, off that statement, is the inflammatory stuff.
They do talk a lot about that.
So,
I don't want to talk
because
about that.
They
too.
misrepresent that. I'll get to that.
But my statement would be is that's why I would do that. If that genuinely is a thing, which I
and I agree.
You would get there.
And that was my point.
Just
I agree.
For the inflammatory thing, then I would eat all the stuff. So that's why I'm like, I want to know because that's like a big deal.
They did a lot of
if that's the only difference,
studies.
Worth it.
I want to talk about the inflammatory
100%.
thing and a bunch of other weird shit they did with the
I can skip ahead if
you'd
like. We can get there because there's 2 burrito experiments, and then there's inflammatory markers, cardiovascular disease, risks of cancer.
Yeah,
they go into all that, and I've got all that right now.
Yeah, well, I mean, let's keep going. But I'm saying like that for me, like that would be. But because you were just saying if you're going to eat the fake stuff, why eat the? To me, that would be the reason.
I think it's fine to eat the fake stuff if you're vegan and you want to be a vegan. But it's like if you don't have an issue with chicken, you know, if all of these things prove to be false and chicken doesn't cause any negative whatever, it seems like just you're making it more. Now you're just eating chicken in a more expensive route.
Right.
To chicken.
Right.
Yeah,
you know?
and like I said, for me, if I were to do it, I'm actually. I was going to say wait till the end. I kind of want to try it and just see because all of them in this that did
they said they had a lot more energy, which is
and
interesting.
And they felt better.
Yeah.
But
I was like, I mean,
But I wonder if they're just eating better in general.
That's my point. The thing that always pops to my mind when somebody starts telling me how much better they're feeling when they went to vegan. Well, how were you eating prior to that?
Well, how
you
much,
probably weren't getting enough fruits and veggies at that
like,
point.
were you eating a vegan diet plus chicken before and you felt like ass? And then you stopped eating chicken and now all of a sudden you feel amazing? Or like, where were you before?
The likelihood, and because I've known some fairly healthy, fit people, and I've known some not so healthy, fit people that have gone vegan, and I'm pretty fucking healthy.
Yeah.
And I still have to work to get enough veggies into my diet to really make that more omnivore based. Because, it's just, if I'm busy, I'm going for a little bit simpler things. I tend to opt for fruit over veggies.
And it's just hard as a human being with a life to keep veggies that don't turn, turn so fast. Like
so that's my point, though.
Tough.
So when somebody definitely goes full vegan, they're putting in the effort. That is tough.
It's a lot
they're
of
making
effort
sure
to
to get
eat
all those
fresh
new
vegetables.
micronutrients in, all that fiber. Of course, they're going to feel better, more energetic because they weren't paying attention to their diet enough in the first place.
Yo, if I had that chef cooking all those
Dude,
veggie stuff
that
she
whole
was
time
making,
I was like, how do I get a her?
yeah, I was like, yo, I would eat if she was gonna make me. I would eat all that.
Is that the one cooking for the
football
team?
Titans.
Oh yeah, we'll get there too.
But that food looked awesome. I was
did
like,
look good
yo,
as
I would eat
fuck.
all that. I would eat all that all the time.
I wouldn't even
If I had
know.
somebody
You wouldn't though,
cooking
Victor,
like that, I would eat it. Why would I?
because
not?
you just said you would rule out a diet if it increased inflammation.
Oh, keep going.
Now I'm interested.
All right, so where was it? Peanut butter sandwich, athletic food. Oh, so again, they had the strong man who was a vegan. He broke the record for carrying that amount of weight.
Yeah.
What they didn't touch on is that, sure, he's a vegan, but he was also pumping in 4 protein shakes a day to get his protein up to about 400 grams of protein, which is going to go past the point where he would need it for animal protein. But since he's going vegan, he has to get the extra protein in. So he put on 25 kilograms, 50 plus pounds as he started training and after he had gone vegan, but because he supplemented his protein. And then that same record got broken a few years later by both Thor and is it Eddie Hall, I think? No, who was it? Brian Shaw and Thor, I think.
Brian Shaw and Thor.
So again, they're not vegan. They eat copious amounts of fucking steak, and they beat his record. I'm not saying anything against the athlete. It's very impressive.
It was
is.
very impressive.
But if you leave out the fact that he's supplementing extra protein into the mix instead of just eating broccoli and veggies and living that vegan lifestyle,
Yeah.
I feel like more often than not, they're pushing like this pristine vegan diet, not supplementing protein into the mix as much. And
Yeah, I mean, maybe that was just me in watching that. I was like, yeah, I mean, I kind of assumed that he would be supplementing. I mean, everybody basically.
yeah, you know that because you've been educated over the last year and a half or so. The average person does not know that.
Yeah, that's fair. But yeah, I just kind of assumed that there'd be supplementation with all.
I
of
also
it.
like what I thought about when I saw this guy. I was like, he hadn't been vegan his whole life.
Correct.
So I'm like, so you got stacked like a fucking house eating protein
Right.
out of animal sources, and then you switched to veganism. Like, not that he couldn't have gotten stacked like a house doing it the other way, but like,
Again, same point I had
But
for
they
I
Arnold.
made
think
it-
the most impressive guy to me was that bodybuilder who's never eaten meat.
That is impressive.
That is.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, what I took from that with that dude was that he got bigger quicker once he. That's what it alluded to in.
It
what
alluded
I was
to that.
watching. Yeah,
Yeah.
but I'm saying that's what he started getting bigger quicker on the.
Yeah, but it's like,
vegan
tell me
diet.
his training routine. Did he start training more? Like,
Right,
you don't
you-
know anything.
No,
Yeah,
there's too many confounders in there. And bear in mind too, like most strong men just are eating fucking 8,000 to 10,000 calories a day. They just
It would
eat like
be
a
hard.
champ.
Can you
Right.
imagine
A
eating like
day.
we watched the Eddie Hall documentary?
Yes.
We saw how much he
Yo.
ate. Imagine trying to eat that much vegan.
Oh, fuck that shit.
Yeah, well, that's why they supplement.
Well, that's
I
why
mean,
they
you
have
would
Doritos and Oreos because those are vegan. You'd be
I
fine.
literally, after we watched the movie, I ate an Oreo and I was like, "Look at me, Aaron! I'm a
I'm
vegan."
Which that's the problem with most vegan substitute type food. It's highly, highly fucking processed.
Yeah.
Highly processed.
Yeah, but what does that mean?
We'll get there. Unless you want to know now.
I'm like, go ahead.
Oh, fuck, I got to go back
keep-
further in
keep
my
No,
notes.
I mean
Keep
keep
going.
going. I mean keep
Oh,
going.
all right, fine.
We'll get there.
We
Fine.
will get there.
So again, awesome feat, but maybe he was or was not supplementing enough
Thinking he
protein on
means
the front
awesome
end.
Feet.
Oh,
And I was like, I don't remember his.
FEAT.
I don't remember his feet.
All right, so now we're up to the first burrito experiment.
Oh, the burrito experiments were very interesting.
All right, lay it on me, your thoughts on the burrito experiment.
Well, I kind of thought the setup was a little bit weird because, like, the very first one, they feed one guy a beef burrito, one guy a chicken burrito, and then one guy's already a vegan or vegetarian.
Which is fine. Yeah.
And they feed him a bean burrito.
Yeah.
So vegan burrito. Yeah.
Right. And then they take their blood work.
Yep.
And then the next day, they feed them all vegan burritos, and then they take their blood work.
Good.
And then they spin their blood in a centrifuge.
Correct.
And it separates all
The
separately.
serum. Yep.
And then they look at the clearness
Correct.
of the serum at the top and claim that the less clear it is, the worse it is.
Right. Simple as that, right? So
Yeah.
clear winner for the vegan burrito, right?
That's how they set it up.
As always, life is slightly more complicated than that, people.
Well, they made it sound like it was fats that were in there, and the fats. This is how I took it. The fats don't allow you to process as quickly, and so they were talking that whole setup was that right before you have an athletic endeavor, that it's better to eat vegan because you actually can perform at a higher rate.
It's probably better to just eat carbs, but whatever.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, but carbs equal plants here, remember?
Yeah, that's true.
So the actual deal, first off, this experiment started with the doctor talking about endothelial cells and vasodilation, your body's ability to do both.
Okay.
Are we familiar with endothelial cells?
no, I'm not familiar with any of this stuff.
Your
I'm dumb.
endothelial cells and or lining is the inside lining of your arterial venous walls. So between that and
So he was talking about
vascular
how they
wall.
dilate and they become
Correct.
bigger.
So
and
you
they
have
let more blood
vasodilation,
flow.
which is the
Yeah.
opening of your blood vessels, and vasoconstriction, which is the constriction of your blood vessels. And so they open claiming that animal proteins, animal products, whatever, are going to cause more vasoconstriction and keep you from being able to vasodilate as well, which would be a performance decreaser if you can't vasodilate. You need more blood moving at any given time. So your endothelial cells control your vasoconstriction, your vasodilation. So they drew the blood, didn't put it through any tests, just put it in the centrifuge to look at the serum, decided not to talk about endothelial cells or vasoconstriction anymore after that point, after talking a whole while about how this test was going to prove or disprove this. And then they showed the cloudiness in the vial. The cloudiness in the vial, in the serum, is due to fat, dietary fat being packaged in chiromicrons. Okay? Doesn't matter what that is, really. It just means that basically that's going to show up in the serum as a little cloudy. Mm-hmm. Completely fucking normal. This is how the body operates. However, it does not affect vasoconstriction
Yeah, I was about to
or
ask,
vasodilation.
so there is no really connection between, okay.
Nope. And that's why they stopped talking about that connection when they opened with that and just decided to opt and show how it's cloudy. That's it. It's cloudy. We don't need to talk about endothelial cells or vasoconstriction anymore.
Or why, it's related in any way.
Yeah, it was a big bait and switch kind of scenario, and that's really
And
we
didn't really pick up on it, but he's right.
I kind of want to watch it again after we've talked about all this stuff and go back and be like, okay.
So this is one of the ones where we come across the
because this movie is so convincing. It is so convincing.
I think they did a great job.
It is so convincing.
I always bring it back to the reason I'm not as willing to simply be convinced is because if you sit and listen to a genius talk about creationism or you sit and listen to a genius talk about evolution, they're going to convince you.
Yeah, man.
Whichever one you're sitting in front of. Because they can so intelligently put across their point and quote-unquote facts and statements, et cetera, et cetera. So it's the same thing when it comes to smoke and mirrors in movies and such. If you put the right data in front of people, it's pomp and flash, it's smoke and mirrors.
We should make a
you focus on the
counter
right
movie
things.
to try to prove the total opposite thing. And I bet we could easily.
Call the games the same.
Yeah. The game's the same.
So,
game,
the best
unchanged.
lies are always wrapped in the truth. Like that is the best way to lie about
and
anything.
it seems like what they end up doing in this film is just presenting half of any given study. So this is called
Yeah,
cherry picking.
we
You
could
take a
just
study and
present the
pull
other
out what
half.
supports your bias, and you count on people not digging deeper because the average person is just
Yeah, they're
consuming
not
shit
gonna.
in small
You think
reels,
someone was
maybe
sitting
a
there
movie.
writing down the names of all those studies in the microscopic font in the corner?
Lane Norton was.
Lane Norton was. He
Thank
probably
God.
had to hit pause a lot.
Yeah, because
yeah.
understand, I am not a scientist. I enjoy the science. So I have to lean on somebody who literally has a PhD in microbiology and nutrition, et cetera, and is going to dig deeper into the studies and what the p-value means and, what's statistically significant and what's not. Because that's just not where I'm at. I love the science, but you have to kind of pick and choose your sources that you trust. And then every once in a while, I'll dig deeper because something interests me. Let me see this study. Does it correlate to what they're saying? Does this all make sense? You have to be willing to dig deeper or simply give your trust to somebody. But that trust cannot be based on how well a movie is done or how well somebody is putting something across. If you're getting the same good information from outside sources, from people in the industry who are out there literally trying to put out good information, that's different than somebody who's literally trying to sell you a book. And oh, wait, the thing that they're making is extremely extreme and goes against everything that we've already been taught. Not saying there haven't been moments in history where that one person outside of the box has really changed things for us. But this is not it. In this day and age, when social media, when somebody's trying to sell you something, most often when they're talking in extremes, they're selling you fucking horse shit.
It's true.
Sorry, I got real upset about
So impassioned, Michael. I love it.
So again, this whole the burrito study was funded by Haas
Big
Avocado.
burrito? Oh.
Big burrito, that'd be great. I'd be all in on that. So again, we don't discount science simply from the funding source. If it's peer reviewed and it's gone through the rigors, then it can absolutely be applicable. The reason I'm bringing up who is funding it on this one is because they so readily.
So who funded it? Because I yelled Big Burrito and didn't hear what you said.
Haas Avocado.
Haas Avocado.
Oh, really?
Right. So the reason
That's
I'm
why
pointing
the
that
kid
out.
was like, and the fat from the avocado doesn't
go.
react this way?
There you go.
That felt very weird that he said that, but now it makes more sense.
Yeah, it's almost like he was a dumb football player and given a line to be
He
an
was
actor.
plugging the
He's
avocado.
not dumb. I'm just saying, but he's not an actor.
So it's funded by Big Avocado, everyone.
Right. So they go later on in the film. They go out and say that all of these studies that are supporting, and they make big blanket claims that all the studies supporting meat and dairy are secretly, so nobody can prove it, secretly funded by the meat and dairy industry. But theirs is okay, though.
But their Big Avocado industry is
No,
all right.
yeah, their funding sources are okay, but everybody else's isn't because it doesn't jive with their narrative.
Yeah.
So you see with these blanket statements and harsh criticisms and only presenting
So
half the information.
The next burrito one is interesting.
We'll get there.
Should we end on that one and let you finish the rest on another episode? How do you feel?
Let me see.
I think we can push through. I think a little bit more.
You
here.
think so?
Yeah,
It's
we'll
up to you guys. Yeah.
We'll go. Let's
I
push through a
only
little
have
bit
2.5
more.
pages more notes.
See?
Yeah. Well, let's get half a page through, and then we'll maybe the last two we'll go for a second episode, and we'll make a part two. Part
Yeah.
two.
Part
So I
two.
have one quick question. I was going to try to save it for the end, but I feel like the end's going to be like 2 days from now. So, because there was a lot of information in this movie, what do you feel is the reason that they're trying to push that narrative? Like, what is
Money.
But in what way?
In the way that, again, every expert in the field that has been presented in this film is making money off of either books or supplements or the lifestyle.
What
in
about the
general.
main guy? What's his deal?
Was that the MMA guy that got injured?
Yeah.
The double knee thing.
Yeah. Well, again, he ended up making the claim, and Lane Norton did a great job of breaking this down. Claimed that he was injured and down for 6 months and read through, I think
Yeah,
he
a
said
bunch of studies or whatever.
10,000 or 1,000 hours?
1,000 hours.
Like 1,000 hours. So Lane Norton broke that down day by day. He'd have had to spend 40% of his waking hours going through studies and reading them. And there were flaws in the statements that he made that are blatant fucking flaws. So, sure, maybe he did do that, but it's highly unlikely.
I mean, I would say for the normal human being, that's highly unlikely.
That guy was very motivated.
But yeah, I was going to say when you're
at
talking
least he appeared
about
very
people-
motivated on
Yeah.
camera.
I mean, to be able to do what he like, he was an elite MMA fighter. Those guys, like just the waking hours and stuff that you have to do that, like it does not. They're all addicted, and they all have that addictive, crazy personality.
Yeah.
So it would not shock me that he put that many hours into it. At
maybe.
all. That wouldn't shock me.
But, went through an elite school in the military to get through shit, and I can't force myself to spend more than an hour or two on the computer. Like, there's shit that sometimes you cannot force yourself to do. And people who are very, very drawn to physical things, I don't think are all super prone to just being able to spend thousands of hours
Well, I
reading
think it's
shit.
really irrelevant whether he did it or not. I was just wondering if, like, I'm sure he made a bunch of money off this documentary, but I'm wondering if he's, like, is he plugging his classes where he's teaching the... Because, that was one of the things that he did where he trained,
where he trained
the
people how
special
to kill
forces
people.
on how to
No,
not
he's,
get
he's
dead.
probably making plenty of money, but he can also push more of a training program based on.
I kinda don't
vegan
remember his
ideas.
name.
I really don't know.
I'd like to look him
James,
up on-
James something, all right?
You guys are nailing it.
All over it. But he also, you go further in the film too, where he's doing the battle rope thing.
Yeah.
And the record was 10 minutes, and then it goes to showing that he blew it.
No, 20.
Whatever. 10 or
Some
20.
had hit 20. I thought that was interesting because I'm like, well, he didn't do dick else that day.
Right,
He
but
just stood there and did battle ropes. I'm like, all these other people are probably working a whole workout and then
right.
doing
But
battle
he
ropes.
also claimed that he did over an hour
Yeah.
with the battle rope, and then it had to have been staged because when you zoom back in for the footage, one, he's barely swinging those things, which
Yeah,
I could
he
fucking do
is.
that for an
Yeah,
hour,
he's barely
and he's not
swinging.
even sweating. So, like, what are we trying to claim here? Probably staged, but we want to claim that he just blew everybody else out of the water by 3 times plus based off of his vegan diet. Okay.
His vegan diet made him do
Okay.
battle ropes.
I
good.
guess.
So, I mean, there is a... Let's do a behind the scenes on video things. So he could have done
Could
an
have.
hour.
That's what
so
I said.
here's
Could have.
well, here's
That
the
one was
deal.
obviously staged, but he
But
could have.
He could have done an hour, but when you do video, be like, hey, we didn't get a good take. Just do it again so I
Yeah.
have a better angle, or do like that stuff in film making because it was so well done, and so like they don't do single takes. They try things different multiple times.
I agree.
and
I'm
so it could
in
have
the
been,
film industry. Like
Yeah.
I completely agree with that. Could have. It's just a hell of a jump to make in time wise.
I know that you're the filmer, but I'm saying that for people listening. Like there
gotcha.
is
Yeah,
all
yeah.
of that kind of
Yeah,
deal of like
100%.
You know.
I that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying he didn't do it. I'm just saying some of his statements are a little sketch. That's it.
Yeah.
I'm skeptical. He could have done it. Fully admit it. But it was very obvious that those are staged. So I don't want people thinking that that was him.
I don't want
actively in the
anyone
moment.
thinking that just going out there and switching their diet to a vegan diet is going to let you do some insane thing for,
I think you've got just as good of a chance of swapping over to eating a tremendous amount more fruits and veggies in your
Yeah,
diet.
I think that if you just eat the same amount of meat that you're generally eating, but you eat
leaner meats
whole
and then eat
processed
whole.
foods.
Are you willing to try it? I'm kind of
Try
wondering.
a vegan diet?
he-
Negative.
I mean, they claimed in this whole movie every time that after just a week of doing it, everybody had these crazy different changes in their thing. So like. A week wouldn't be worth it for you to be able to
the
see.
amount of money
because
that we're
of all
going to
the hard
spend
stuff
trying
that's
to
out
get
there.
trying to get like
It's not that necessarily. Now, I would say it would be more
I mean,
worth.
one thing of pea protein will get you through a week.
I would say it would be more worthwhile to first take a week, optimize your fruit and veggie intake.
I agree with
so
you.
that you're not going from an obviously deficit to working real hard to jump into a vegan diet. And then see if you feel better from the full-on, well-rounded omnivore diet going over to pure
But that's what
vegan.
I'm saying. So you're already there.
Eat a vegan
You
diet
are
plus
eating that
lean meats and tell
are
me how you
eating
feel.
that diet. So you would be the example of I'm already eating a well-balanced,
Right.
good diet. Now let's just cut out the meat for a week and just see the difference.
But
I mean,
you have to
'cause
also
then
cut
you-
out dairy and eggs and cheese and
basically shit that I
yogurt
eat
and
every
everything that
fucking
we
day.
eat every
That's-
day.
But for a week, I'm just curious because I'm just curious on a non in the movie example of it.
Right.
Like what would a week of that be? Like I kind of want to do it, except I'm leaving for Vegas on Friday, so I'm not going to do it in Vegas.
That would be the saddest
So
trip
it might
to
be a couple
Vegas.
weeks till I do it. But I do want to try it just because I want to see, like, I want to personally see and feel the difference. Just the same thing like when I did last year when I did, you guys can go find it. I only ate fast food for a week. Just to prove
That
you can
seems
still
way
lose.
more achievable to me than eating a vegan diet for a week.
So, but my point with that was that you could lose weight and only eat fast food for a week. I cheated though and did. I still did shakes because I was starving when I was just doing fast food in order to do it because of anyway. I talked about it on that episode, but. I'm also interested. The same part of my brain that did that wants to do
who
this. And
lifts
just try it.
very, very heavy, and she's a beast of a human, and she's vegan. But she goes hell of a way out of her way to make meals that are tasty and good. And
Yeah, but you go out of your way. You take your own sauces to restaurants. What's the difference?
I
Oh,
have
that's a
done
big
that.
difference. You
Like,
can
But
usually
I'm saying,
carry
like,
sauces.
I'm saying there's extra. We all do that now. Like we order. I don't think I've actually ordered a regular menu item at a restaurant for a minute. I've always supplement or changed now that I understand.
it's certainly hard to get a vegan meal at a
No,
restaurant.
she's probably cooking
She
way more
cooks
often,
way-
which means
yeah,
again
pretty much all the
shopping,
time.
planning out those meals, and then making them taste like chicken and or bacon.
You guys
Yeah.
are also two people who like just don't.
Oh,
cook
God, no.
ever. So you guys are very bad examples.
I
of that.
made. You want to know what I had for dinner last night? It was
you
the
have for dinner?
laziest fucking meal. I bought a smoked turkey breast at Sam's, so like sliced it myself. Pretty good, pretty cost effective. And so what we did is we took 2 pieces of white bread and we slapped turkey slices on top of it, and then I made gravy out of a packet of gravy, and then I dumped a can of mixed vegetables like green beans, rice, carrots, potatoes into my gravy, and then I pour that on top of my bread turkey.
I dig
So an
it.
open
And I ate
face,
that.
an open face turkey sandwich.
I had a bottle of red wine and 4 cheesecake cupcakes.
That feels good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. I had wings. So.
Okay. We all did great.
But.
I had wings. Yay, vegans!
But that's what I'm saying. Like,
we crushed
so
it.
you guys are, like I said, to go back to what we were saying there, is like you guys don't really cook it. A lot of people cook regularly
I think
as
I
it
would
is.
certainly have
So
to cook a lot more, and it
the
would be
difference
hard
wouldn't
to.
be to just cut the meat out. Isn't as big of a deal for some people who cook
w-
regularly anyway.
We would certainly have to not just cut the meat out, but we would have to buy I think
We
would
would, yeah.
have to buy fake cheese. We'd have to buy.
Well, I think I would opt more towards the whole veggies at that point because I feel like the fake cheese is going to fuck you up too.
Right, so that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know anything about the fake vegan products. Like, I don't know what is in a Beyond Burger. You know,
I would more likely also order protein. I do the pita rice protein. So again, I can still be athletic and healthy off of that.
Yeah.
And then I would eat plenty of veggies and
I'm just curious.
Maybe
like,
some
how
soy,
it would make you
seitan.
feel
so could I
if
get
there's a
yogurt
feeling
that's not
difference.
dairy, non-dairy yogurt substitute,
sounds
which sounds
gross.
awful, but maybe. You know, we
I'm
wouldn't be able to
just
drink our
thinking.
choco milk.
I would probably eat a lot of soy and then drink protein shakes
I agree.
and then eat lots of broccoli and shit.
Yeah, I'm just.
fruit.
I kind of want to try it for a week. I might
you
try
may
it when I
talk
get
me
back.
into
I
it.
think that what
It'll
you
be a
should
few
do
weeks
is
down the
Just as
road.
our personal.
you
like,
should cook
pod
for all of
experience.
us for a week.
Let me get right on
Right
that.
on
Wouldn't that be all right?
All right, so
Right
the
on.
last point from the burrito experiment is we actually do have studies that are showing that low-fat sources of protein, fish, dairy, chicken, turkey, do not decrease endothelial or vaso
Constriction.
function, basically,
Yeah,
constriction
dilation,
or
whatever.
dilation. Yeah. So studies show more that it's total calorie intake and fat content that can drive dysfunction. And so we talk about that all the time when it comes to keeping your saturated fat intake to less than 10% of your overall calories. And we find that that's enough of an intervention to not start to raise cholesterol levels and clog
A
up arteries and
question
such.
that I don't know if you can actually answer, but so this guy, the guy who had was there avocado in everyone's burrito or just the vegan burrito? Does anyone remember that?
I don't know.
Yeah, so I'm
I
just
don't
wondering
know.
like what the fat content of each one of those burritos was, but
And
they don't
it's hard
show
to
us
say.
that.
And based off of, I mean, chicken's not very high fat
No,
in general,
yeah.
but it's going to have more fat than probably the vegan sources they chose.
Yeah,
And so
that would have been a nice thing to know.
Yeah, there was-
Oh, you
I
mean
mean-
having full transparency of
Yeah.
everything that's happening on while
It's
they're
also
doing
hard
studies?
to do. Again, talking about the
Well, I
movie
mean,
side, it's hard
if
to
you're
put
gonna
every
say
single
that
piece
that,
of everything
that the stuff
into
that's
it.
making it
Like, you
cloudy
have
is
to-
fat, and then you're going to say that the fat in avocado doesn't affect whatever, then like how much fat was there in that avocado? How much
Yeah.
fat was there in the chicken? How much fat was there in the
I
pork?
don't
Like,
really
that's
think
a
it is that
valid-
hard to put that. When they went out
I'm
of
not
their
saying
way,
hard. I'm just saying in terms of
It's
like
a lot
edits
going on,
and all
yeah.
that kind of stuff. Like, yeah.
but when you're going out of your way to flash a tremendous amount of studies in people's faces, but you can't just put up the calorie
Yeah,
slash
yeah.
macro content of each
yeah,
one.
I
of
didn't
those.
say it impossible. I'm just saying like
I would
there
say
are
not even very
definitely-
hard.
There are definitely pieces I'm sure that they cut out that they may have had more information or may not have. I don't know. The whole time I kept thinking about going, but I love pork chops. that's what kept going through my head. But I love pork chops. Yeah.
All right, so
Next point.
They threw in a beetroot juice study.
Did they?
Oh
The
yeah.
bench press?
Oh,
If you drink beet,
I thought that was
juice, it does
immediately. I
what?
said that's horseshit. The
What?
amount of percentage that they threw out, I was like, that's
Well, so
I
what did
love
it
that
say?
you pegged on that.
gotta
What
be
did it say?
horseshit.
It was what was their statement?
They said that beetroot juice could improve your bench press by 19%.
19%. What?
Just
So
by
my
drinking it?
305 bench press would just
Before?
immediately go up to 340 something.
I
should
think that's
try
how
it.
I die under.
No, it's not a real thing. I actually have
try it.
beetroot extract.
No, juice, not extract.
Well, I could put it in water, it becomes juice. Boom.
Also, is beetroot juice? What does that taste like?
Beets, I would assume.
So the actual study that they referenced and knew you wouldn't read
Yeah, no kidding.
stated that they had participants take beetroot juice or a placebo, then do 3 sets to failure at 60% of their max weight. The beetroot juice folks were able to do 19% more, not more weight, more reps, volume, etc. So that in this one lone study, because they tried to replicate it and it didn't come out the same way, but all that means is that beetroot juice could have some anti-fatiguing effects. And that's cool,
Yeah.
but if you just make the statement that it can increase your bench by 19%, 9 out of 10 people, 99 out of 100 people, a lot of people are going to assume that you mean overall bench press weight.
I mean, that's how they presented it.
Correct.
And I immediately was like, I don't
Hugely
care what
misstated.
the fuck is in beetroot juice. Unless it's like a hit of testosterone. That's not
Creatine,
happening.
an absolutely proven supplement, cannot increase you by that
No,
much.
it's just not. That's ridiculous. That one was an easy BS one for me.
Very much so.
I even forgot about it. That's how stupid it was.
All right, next point.
All right. Well, you sure? Because
Yes,
I've got... Where am I at?
One more,
right.
and then we're gonna save the rest because I really the end part I can't wait to dive into. So I really want to have a whole lot of time and be able to talk about the whole industry of meat.
All right.
So we can do the whole next
All right,
episode
so
on that.
animal protein increases inflammation. Not protein, animal protein. Thoughts?
I don't know. That was one of the things.
That's true. You didn't know, so you have no thoughts. I got you.
That was what I'm saying. That was one of the things that I was like. I mean, if that is even just a little bit, because inflammation slows you down. Inflammation causes things not to work as
Yeah, I
properly
mean, I
when it's
certainly
not.
do not want inflammation, and I would like to know more about this.
I mean, and that's also one
You
of
don't
the
want
reasons.
any inflammation ever?
I mean, some.
I mean, I
That's how
do,
you have
like when my
muscle growth.
shit's trying to heal also.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
And
But-
after workouts.
Yeah.
That is, but that's also one of the things. That's why you do the cold bath. That's why you do the cold tub, is to help keep down inflammation. That's part of the cold tub. It does that as well.
I don't do the
Constricts-
cold tub.
Yeah,
give me the inflammation.
But I'm
instead.
saying that's something. Give me
I've
but
changed
that's
my mind.
something that Mike believes in. Is the
I mean,
cold tub
kind
as
of.
well.
Not
So that's
necessarily.
part of
Not
it.
I thought it
necessarily
was
for
like
that.
activating brown fats and stuff.
We don't have enough brown fat to be a thing. I've seen stuff on both sides of the study where you have, a lot of influencers are like, it doesn't do shit. And a lot of other influencers are like, it burns 3,000 times as many calories. And I'm like, goodness
3,000
gracious.
times.
As usual, it's somewhere in the middle. They have had a couple studies where your metabolism and rate was boosted by about 15% while you were cold. So while you're in that tub, and I think they did it at like 52, 56, and 60-some degrees. I can't remember. But it does elevate you a little bit, which makes sense because your body is being
Working
forced
harder.
to maintain your core
Yeah.
temp. But it's only while you're cold, and it's not 3,000 fucking calories. It's ridiculous. And it doesn't boost your testosterone by 300%. I'll tell you what, every single guy in the world will be in a cold tub most of the day.
Every day.
I'm telling you that
Would you do the cold tub then?
I said this last time we talked about it. I was like, if I could just eat delicious foods in the cold tub, I'd be way more motivated.
You
to get in
could,
the
but
cold
you'd have to
tub.
be in there for an hour.
It's a very fast eater, Michael. I'd be surprised what I can eat in 1 minute.
No, you'd have to eat fast and still be in there for an hour for that to even come close to equate.
Oh,
That's what I'm trying to say.
out on that.
I'm out.
All right. So they found in some controlled trials, there was some evidence supporting that substituting red meat out and soy protein in decreases inflammation, which sounds positive for vegans, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
However,
All right.
Okay.
these studies they chose were done using hamburgers and other high-fat meats, and they were not controlled for calories. So again, we're finding like this consistent pattern of too many calories or being overweight and increasing, past what your body needs is what rises and drives inflammation and dysfunction. Right?
Okay.
Remember that? All right. So again, one of the biggest drivers for inflammation is weight gain. And vegans, again, off of studies, vegans tend to eat about 600 calories less than us meat eaters. And again, they're just drawn towards more of an extreme diet, so they're more likely to jump onto healthier patterns in general.
That's true. If you're a full-blown vegan, you're,
Committed.
you're committed.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Committed. You should be committed.
And honestly, that's what tends to drive good health habits too, is accountability, being committed to the drive. And I'll tell you what, for the average person, the hardest thing to get them to do is track their intake consistently because it's such a hassle. I mean, it takes 3 to 5 minutes on any given day, but it's such a hassle
It's
when
a
that's
hassle
the
enough
thing
that I
that's
don't
really
do it
going to help you.
lately.
But you
Genuinely-
did do it
I
for a
did
long
for
enough period
years,
of time that you have a better knowledge base than somebody who's unwilling to start doing that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't track nearly as religiously as I did, but I can be like, oh, I kind of ate this today and have.
I
like, a
guarantee I can tell
gauge.
you how many calories I've eaten in a day between 200 to 300 calories.
Right.
Oh, I'm
at
probably
And the
worst.
protein is a little bit more important, especially if you're at a healthy body fat range, which both of you are.
Yeah.
So it becomes a little less important at that point. As long as you're accounting for protein and you're still trying to work out and dig into healthier habits, you're fine. You need to dig into
generally,
calories if you
is
want to lose
soy
weight.
is lower in fat and lower in calories than something like a fatty meat.
Correct.
Right, okay,
Yeah.
so-
Soy is pretty low in fat. It has a decent amino acid breakdown, still not superior to animal protein sources in the realm of providing you with all the essential amino acids you need. So when we talk about superior, inferior protein sources, it's all about the essential amino acids you're getting in that wrap up. All right, so systematic review of over 11,000 studies showed that there were no differences in healthy individuals consuming upwards of 9 ounces of red meat daily.
Interesting.
11,000 studies, different studies, 9 ounces of red meat daily.
Who eats
Showed
9 ounces
no
of red
different.
meat daily?
I know, I tend to go for a pound plus at any given time, but
That's what I meant.
Do you eat red meat every day?
No.
probably once every week or two.
Yeah, I found myself, as much as we've been doing this, I eat less and less and less red meat.
It's just
That's
Me
by
too.
nature.
For me,
It's
when
just
for me, when it
naturally
comes to red
less.
meat, well, one, red meat's expensive.
Yeah.
And we have refined taste by this point. If I'm going to sit down and eat red meat, I want to get a good steak.
Yeah.
I want to get a good reverse sear on that. I want it prepped. So, like, it's a good piece of meat.
Yeah,
it takes longer to prep.
It's a kind of high calorie hit. It's a high fat hit. I don't eat it very often. I mean, I've actually had burgers a lot recently, but it's only because we're trying to get through the freezer. Let me have
Yeah,
burgers.
so I just had a burger yesterday, 2 days ago. 2 days ago, I had a burger. So that was the first red meat I'd eaten in a while. Because I thought about that when
I don't
we.
even remember the last steak I ate. That's so sad.
Oh, I can Texas Roadhouse,
I did
delicious.
my
so
birthday.
good.
I had steak.
But I remember when I started the weight loss process. Remember we were going through that book that
Oh yeah, the cook
once, eat all week.
Yep.
Yeah. When we were going through that book, one of the weeks they basically, if you haven't checked the book out, check the book out. I learned a lot of really
Yeah,
awesome.
it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I learned a lot of really great
Very,
shit.
very
from it.
simple fixes for
Yeah,
cooking and
awesome.
quantity. Yeah.
But the 1 week they have you make they make you bake a protein, a veggie, and a starch, and that's what you use to make all your meals for the week. But the 1 week it was ground beef, and I had a lot of trouble getting through that week.
I always subbed ground turkey for that week.
Yeah,
I love ground beef. I tend to get it a little bit leaner because I'm mixing other things with it usually, but I love ground beef.
Yeah, I mean, I do. I love a good burger.
Yeah.
I love a good like meatballs and like I love all that kind of where that ground beef
Right.
gets used. I just couldn't eat it every day for like I was over it. I don't feel like I eat pork chops. I talk about it all the time. I eat pork and pork chops
Yeah, I
all
think we
the
all
time.
have our
and
favorites.
It doesn't bother me.
I tend to have chicken on hand, cooked appropriately, marinated, slow cooked, nice and tender. But I have that on as I almost always given protein, so
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
handy
yeah.
when I need it. But all right, so they had a randomized controlled trial where calories, protein, carbs, and fat were all equated. Half the participants vegan, half the participants omnivore-based diet. Both groups lost weight and decreased inflammation to the same degree.
Interesting.
So it's further proof towards weight loss and gain driving inflammation levels. That's your main driver. So if your body is getting what it needs and or less, inflammation is going down. If your body is getting more than it needs, we're in a big surplus now. We don't need to be in a surplus. Inflammation levels will start to go up.
That's interesting. Why?
Because of shit.
I'm just wondering.
Science.
That's a weird response for your body to have, but also I kind of get it, I guess.
Well, I mean, inflammation is probably. I mean, I have zero science backing this. It's just my own brain rubbing two cells together. Is
The only two I have.
I would assume like if your body's probably working overtime
Mm-hmm.
if you have too much shit in there and just the overworking,
The chronic systemic
Yeah.
inflammation is going to kind of gum up the works. But you got to bear in
Yeah.
mind, too, And I've noticed this acutely when I purposely gain all the weight is your motivation goes down. You move less. You have more aches. You have reflux. You just everything kind of starts to decrease for you and slow down. And that's due to systemic, inflammation and not fueling right and not having the proper nutrients. And so I think the weight gain is the main driver, but it's not the only one. So people who are gaining weight are often not living an appropriate lifestyle, getting all the appropriate nutrients in their food to fuel effectively. They're likely not resistance training. So there's a host of other factors. So I'm only saying that the weight gain is the main driver for that dysfunction to kind of start. But what happens when you gain weight? Like you become a little bit more insulin resistant, which gets worse and worse and worse as you go up. Your risk for cardiovascular disease goes up. You're likely eating higher fat food, so now you've got higher cholesterol. Your arteries are going to start to clog. So there's a host of negative things that come along with that the weight gain itself is driving.
That artery clogged part, I can't wait till we get to that.
Me neither.
But we're going to get to that next week.
Episode.
So I'm going to table you here, Mike, because this is a good spot.
I just had one more little
go ahead.
snippet for the
hit me
animal
with the
protein
morsel.
increases inflammation.
Yeah.
Hit me
Okay,
with
go
the
ahead.
morsel.
So again, a lot of the vegan options for meat, cheese, et cetera, are just heavily processed. So in a study where overweight participants were fed either cheddar cheese or vegan cheese in order to measure the inflammatory response. Now, bear in mind, they were also overweight.
Yeah.
But they're going to measure the inflammatory response. The vegan cheese caused a larger increase in the inflammatory marker CRP, which is C-reactive protein, which doesn't mean a damn thing to you, but it is an inflammatory marker.
Got it.
Didn't mean a damn thing to me either. I didn't mean to put you in that.
No, it's
So it's odd how the film just sort of left that study out, even though it
What is vegan cheese made of? Soy?
no clue.
I have no idea. I'm just curious.
But regardless, it's not its natural state, so it has to be heavily processed to become this vegan cheese. And
I'd like to know about, and maybe we'll do this in a future episode, how vegan products are made, like Beyond Burgers and like all of that stuff. Like, I mean, obviously it has to be processed. You're not just getting that off of a vegan.
I don't like that word processed. Let's leave it. I want to leave you guys on this.
I
just
agree
don't
with
like,
you. I don't know
But
what
it's an
word to
accurate
use
word.
though.
What
Like
do you-
it has to
what
be
don't you
heavily
like about it?
crafted.
Because everything's processed. We talked about last week. We talked about micronutrients and we talked about fortified cereals.
Process, I think, in your
That's
head.
processed.
Does that make it
But
bad?
there's a difference between processed and heavily processed. So it goes through different stages
I
of
don't
processing.
think there's a difference in that. I think for me, process just doesn't need to have a negative connotation.
Yes.
I'm not saying that the way that it is processed is bad. What I'm saying is, what is the process? I'm innately curious.
Yeah.
How
I
are they
just
making
think
it? What is it made of?
We've made that term. It's processed food.
I don't think
everything
processed
you
foods
eat
are
is
necessarily
fucking
bad.
processed.
I love
still
cereal.
think
That
we have
shit's
to find
processed.
some way to separate different processes because cereal isn't bad. You have whole wheat and
But it's
grains in
processed.
there.
It's heavily
fortified.
processed.
It is heavily
You're
processed.
making
Heavily
me, it's not.
processed.
I don't think that's heavily processed. I think it is
They
processed.
add things that aren't even in it.
Well, that's
Fortified
fortified,
cereals.
yeah.
That's what we were talking about.
Fortified is them adding vitamins and minerals.
But that's
means
different
it's
than them
heavily
adding
processed. Peanut butter paste and encasing it in chocolate, like say a Reese's
Why
cup,
is that different?
which is heavily processed. Because
How is that
you've
different?
changed what this was in the natural world and created this mush out of it and shaped it and put a whole bunch of extra stuff into it.
Show me a Cinnamon Toast Crunch tree.
The bulk of Cinnamon Toast Crunch is going to be enriched wheat.
But it's not in its natural state. It has been changed. That's what I mean.
What is the
All of
change
these
from
things have
wheat
been
to
changed.
enriched wheat?
It has been processed.
But
that's what I'm saying.
Kind
I'm
of.
just
It's been
using-
processed through a
Kind
machine
of.
which like
There is no
dehusks
kind
it.
of.
Yes, there is. That's what I'm saying. There's so many different levels to this. Because you don't change wheat when you process the wheat, which ends up taking some of the B vitamins and stuff out of it. You put it through a machine which like dehusks the shit, and so you lose some of those minerals that might have been in the husk, but it's still wheat. And then that gets ground down and baked up, and then you put some sugar in it, sure. But when you take a nut, grind up enough of them, then throw in hydrogenated oils, and then mix it in with sugar, and then you put chocolate, which comes from the cacao tree, and then you grind that down, and then you heat that up, and then you double boil it, and then you take both of those things after freezing this thing into shape to put this peanut butter paste into it. It is so far gone from where it was naturally.
That was the same process you just said. You just said that the wheat, sure, and then they cook it down. And
All right,
that's
hey,
the same
it
thing.
doesn't
It's the same
actually
I just
process.
said like
fucking
12
matter.
different processes to make a Reese's cup.
Everything
and
is
3 to make
processed.
cereal.
Yeah, but that's my point. That's kind of what I'm saying. Like everything's processed. We
I
talk
mean,
about
not
how-
everything. Okay, obviously, a fruit isn't processed and a vegetable isn't processed, right?
Right.
But like a lot of foods are processed. Some pros are going to be more processed than the others. The process to get something is going to be,
Right.
way more elaborate one way or another. That is not the topic on the table. The topic on the table is what is the process to make vegan cheese? What is the process to make vegan meats? I would like to know that process.
And so what I feel like it is again, I'll have to double check this, so don't quote me on this, but I feel like they add a lot of hydrogenated oils to help things take their shape and then add flavor and stuff to the mix. So you're getting a lot of these extra oils. They tend to be higher calorie, higher
does it
in fat.
have protein in it? Is it made of soy?
The protein, I believe it is. A lot of that stuff is going to be soy-based, I believe, or seitan-based, which is a higher protein vegetarian source.
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, if a veggie burger, like a black bean burger is different, but like if a fake veggie burger is still packing the same amount of protein as a real burger, that could be cool. You know?
Yeah, I'm curious, but yeah, my whole take was everybody's always attacking with that word process. That was my whole thing. But everything,
See, I'm kind of against attacking the word process, but even some of the biggest influencers that I trust out there have a difference between processed and ultra processed. And I don't know what the fine line is. I feel like I have a definition of that in my own head. And cereal to me fits on the safe side of that because I love cereal.
I was just using that, that's why I was just using that.
But I still feel like it falls closer to the safe side.
Yeah, I mean,
of
it
that.
depends on the cereal, right? Like, I could eat a very unprocessed cereal. Maybe it's like mostly oat clusters or something like almonds or whatever, right? Or I could eat fucking Trick cereal, which is like dyed 97 different colors, right? So like
we can all agree that it is processed, but I still stand firmly on there is a difference between processed and ultra processed, and we just haven't delineated that yet.
Yeah, which maybe we can work on doing. But I mean, I really don't care where the line stands. You know, I think
understanding
most foods are processed, and I think that's okay.
I feel like I feel like the line can change a bit from individual to individual, and I think that's fine. But I think having an idea when you're going out to make informed choices to make yourself healthier, you have to have some line between, you know, processed, which the vast majority of shit is processed, and ultra processed.
It's probably safe to say that the least processed foods
I'll
are
have
the
facts
whole
for that
foods,
the
and
next
those are
time
the
we come
best
in.
foods for you.
100.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's in general. But what I'm saying, where I don't think you need to have a line, is because like we talk about it all the time. I love a donut. I'm going to eat a fucking donut whenever I want. That doesn't. What's the difference between an unhealthy donut and something that's
I bet you that a donut that you make fresh would count as less processed than like a donut that you buy in the store. That's
maybe because you get less preservatives. But
right.
you keep thinking I'm trying to villainize or pull out ultra processed foods. I'm not. I enjoy Reese's Cups or cheesecake or...
Damn right.
So I'm not pulling it out. It's more of a limiting those things because you're not eating donuts every day. But of course you get to eat fucking donuts. I pushed that since day one. But he
makes me eat donuts all the time.
You limit
it's
the
awful.
ultra-processed shit. You can fit in more of the processed shit because basically everything is processed these days, but it's more readily accessible. It's a little bit cheaper. It can still fit in a healthy diet, just like ultra-processed things can, but less of them.
I just don't like that word process has been so vilified. I feel like people say that all the time. They're like, oh, it's processed food. I'm like, what does that mean?
Those are the people that are going through the fucking grocery stores and videotaping everything. That is not our triad.
No.
That is not what we push in this food. So when we say processed, it's simply an observation or an educational word. We are not vilifying it, which means you can still use it because we don't have a negative connotation set on it.
Correct.
All I want to know is what do we need to pass along to educate between whole foods, processed, ultra-processed, and what do you need to know about that bare minimum? What can you have plenty of? What can you have a good amount of? And what can you have little bits of that fit in your diet but still make you happy? That's my only standpoint when it comes to processed to ultra-processed.
I like food. That makes me happy. On that note, I love you guys all. We're going to see you next week as we finish talking about Game Changers. If you have not watched it, go watch the movie.
Yeah, now's a good time. Go watch it. It's very fascinating.
Because you don't want all this information and to get all confuzzled in your brain. Right. I don't know.
If you're already listening to us, why waste your time?
It really would be. I think anybody who is even remotely interested in the fitness world and their diet and everything could enjoy this movie.
It's especially if you have the knowledge behind what's going on here, because it can also help you go into future things that people are presenting that you can now start to be like, well, that doesn't quite peg right, and I'm not going to just take it as fact right off the bat. Let me dig a little deeper.
I'm excited about the last part. So a little teaser, like I said, it's the meat processing, how like the industry of meat processing.
Right. The meat and dairy industry, agriculture, greenhouse gases, the effect on the environment.
I'm so interested. All right. We'll see you next week.
Bye. Drink your beet juice, everybody.
Beet juice?
Yeah, drink your beet juice. It's all about making your bench press. Beetroot juice. Sorry.
For some reason they're different.
Oh. Is there a difference?
I don't know. Just say the words.